Conversations with Dr. Johnson.
Good morning.
Dr. Johnson, it is our last show before Christmas.
Our last pre-holiday show. Yes,
Yeah, so do you want to wish all our beautiful, amazing, what would I call it, faithful guests, you want to wish them a Merry Christmas?
Sure, absolutely. Merry Christmas, everybody, and a Happy New Year, and none of this Happy Holidays nonsense.
He had to go there. You see, I wasn't even prompting him. He's already talking about nonsense. I agree with him. No happy holiday bullshit.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Or Happy Christmas, Merry New Year, whichever you prefer.
Yes, and that's what we're wishing you from Anti-Fragility Health Clinic. So today, we want to talk about the things that you might be doing a lot over the holidays. Eating. We want to talk about inflammation and the impact that inflammation has on your immune system.
Yes.
So give us an introduction on inflammation and the GI aspects of inflammation.
Well, inflammation is a very useful bodily function that we must have if we're going to be able to heal from injuries. However, as we age, we tend to lose the ability to control that inflammation once it has outlived its usefulness. Now, most inflammation in the body actually starts in the gut, okay? Sugar causes inflammation, starch causes inflammation, polyunsaturated fatty acids or vegetable oils tend to promote inflammation.
Plus toxins.
Toxins promote inflammation,
Molds.
lack of sleep promotes inflammation, stress promotes inflammation.
Does too much sleep also promote inflammation?
Well, there is some evidence to suggest that that may be true.
Yes.
If you're depressed and you're sleeping 16 or 18 hours a day, that is definitely going to promote inflammation.
You see, God was so amazing. He just gave you just some tolerances. Don't sleep too much, sleep enough. You need to stay in the zone. If not, inflammation hits you.
Yeah, like everything else, we need a certain amount, but it's possible to get too much of a good thing.
Okay.
We need some exercise, but we shouldn't overdo it. We shouldn't be running marathons or triathlons. Those people are absolutely harming their health, their physical health. I know that most of them have some sort of mental compulsion to
climb mountains,
to do these things.
Jump valleys.
No, climbing mountains, that's great.
Not if you're going to die at the top of the mountain.
No, we don't want to do that.
Yeah. So are you saying it's the same thing with inflammation? We need some, but not too much.
We need some, but not too much. Sure. If I cut my hand, that cut will not heal unless my body has the ability to produce some inflammation at that site.
Yeah. And so we know that around the concepts of what happens with the viral attack COVID-19 is the whole issue of the cytokine storm.
Yes.
And that is really an outcome of inflammation, isn't it?
Yes, and we have some things that very powerfully address that or prevent that.
Yes, and we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, SPM active, extremely powerful, natural anti-inflammatory. I've never seen any side effects with this.
And the dosing on this?
The dosing?
Yeah.
4 pills initially as a one-time loading dose, and then 2 pills once a day thereafter.
So when you call them pills, people think they're medication, right? So we call them capsules. Just to make that distinction. When you say pills, because these are nutrients. So when he says pills, I'm a very English guy. It sounds like he's talking about medicine.
I don't think most Americans look at it that way. In my 40 years of practicing medicine, I have never had that feedback from a patient.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, because in England, medicines are called pills and other things are called something else.
Really?
Yeah, so when you call it a pill, it's a medication.
Yeah, well, they're English. What do they know?
Well, they also created the language.
Well, yes. but we fixed it.
Dr. Johnson always having the last word. So, okay, you were talking about SPM active.
Yes, and the other thing that is very powerful at having an antiviral benefit and an anti-inflammatory benefit is melatonin.
Melatonin.
Melatonin we think of as the sleep hormone, but it's a very powerful immune-strengthening hormone, anti-cancer hormone, antiviral hormone, and antioxidant and anti-inflammatory.
So would you call melatonin a bioidentical?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And because people are always worried about hormones when we talk about hormones, because they are like, well, what about the natural? Is it not natural? Where did it come from? So you consider the melatonin supplement as a bioidentical?
Yes. The possible issue with melatonin is, are you taking pharmaceutical grade melatonin like this, which is what you want to be taking, or are you taking over-the-counter grade?
Okay.
And a lot of people that take the stuff they buy at Walmart or wherever,
Or Costco,
they find either it doesn't work well for them, and or it gives them nightmares. And then they switch to the pharmaceutical grade, and they usually find it works much better and does not cause nightmares.
All right. So we were talking about melatonin and sleep.
Yes.
What about melatonin and inflammation?
Well, it is a powerful anti-inflammatory hormone. And, there are lots of things that are anti-inflammatory. Fish oil is anti-inflammatory to some degree.
Yeah.
SPM active is a much more concentrated version of the fish oil's anti-inflammatory benefit.
Okay. So melatonin, what else? We're going to talk about probiotics as part of that whole inflammatory response.
Well, sure. If inflammation is starting in our gut, a lot of that has to do with the food we're eating that preferentially feeds the bad bacteria. And the bad bacteria then produce compounds and toxins that promote inflammation. So we can never get rid of all of the bad bacteria in our gut, nor would we want to, but we want to keep them in balance. And we keep them in balance by adding probiotics, which are the friendly, helpful bacteria.
To create the right diversity.
Yeah, to crowd out the bad bacteria to a certain extent.
So we're talking about inflammation at a time where everybody's concerned about COVID-19. So what is the connection between inflammation and COVID-19? What is the link?
Well, first of all, if you have excess chronic inflammation, that is going to weaken your immune system, and you're going to be more susceptible to COVID and other viruses. Having said that, if you get COVID, and I'm not just talking about a positive test, I'm talking about you actually are sick with it. You have symptoms.
That means you test positive and you have symptoms.
Yes. So once you actually have symptoms, COVID really produces incredible amounts of inflammation in the human body, and that's one of the reasons that some people get so sick with it. It triggers something called a cytokine storm. Cytokines are chemicals in our body that we use to communicate information from one part of the body to another. But like everything else, we want a few cytokines, we don't want too many. And COVID tends to trigger a huge avalanche of cytokines.
And therefore we need things to dampen that inflammation.
Yes, exactly.
So the body can actually then do the fight or do the work that it needs to do.
Yes, indeed.
So it's like your temperature rising and we want to bring the temperature down. Right.
Well, we don't really want to bring the temperature down because the fever is part of the body's way of fighting the infection. Okay? If your water is contaminated with bad bacteria, how do you get rid of them? You boil the water. You kill them with heat. So the fever is part of the body's ability to get rid of that virus. Now, if your temperature goes up to 105, that is potentially damaging to your brain. And so in that case, we absolutely do want to give something to bring that fever down, usually something like Tylenol.
I was being educated on that because in Africa, when you have a fever in the village, they want to cool you down. And so you're saying that that is really not a good idea all the time to bring that to that temperature down.
It's a good idea only if the fever is excessive and potentially dangerous in
But
and of
if it's
itself.
hovering around 100, it's okay for you to stay in bed.
100, 101, 102.
It's okay.
Yeah, just
let the fever burn out.
if it gets to 103, keep a close eye on it so to make sure it doesn't progress to that dangerous level of 105.
Okay. All right. So now we've spoken about dampening the inflammation, but what other consequences? Because a lot of people are having mild to moderate symptoms and recovering. What are the post-recovery issues that you see and that people should be aware of?
Well, we personally haven't really seen many of those because our patients know to keep their vitamin D levels optimized, their zinc levels optimized, and so they're pretty much immune to it.
Yeah.
And so we don't really see that. But in the literature, we're seeing ongoing inflammation in the heart, excuse me, the brain, and other organs.
So you'll be seeing changes to their like creatinine levels and things like that.
You could.
That is showing that perhaps there's now some. So, and how would we address that in our normal nutrient ways? How would we then approach that?
Well, these supplements we've talked about are very helpful. There is something called frequency-specific microcurrent, which has a powerful anti-inflammatory benefit. Stem cells have a very powerful anti-inflammatory benefit. If someone has been very ill with COVID and their recovery is just not coming along, it's dragging on, then that would be something worth considering.
Because a lot of people are saying that the cough persists for weeks, and you would say that that's something that we could intervene in trying to dampen that inflammation and give the body the time to recover.
Yes, and as far as healing the gut, which is important, we've got we've got some very powerful
like the
meal replacements here.
Yes.
Now,
which have a lot of the underlying amino acids for gut repair.
Yeah, they really have all of the ingredients that your gut needs to return to normal health.
Yeah.
And some people have said, oh, that's a little expensive, I don't want that. Well, the reality is this is a meal replacement. So the money you were going to spend on your other meal now gets spent on this. So
plus the other nutrient
in a sense, it's almost free.
Yes, exactly, because it's the price of your meal.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. We have a short session because the holidays are here and we have to go eat.
That's
we have
right.
a potluck today.
That's right.
I know that's why you stayed today. That potluck.
Why else would I stay?
To talk to me.
Of course.
Yes, and to our guests. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Johnson, and Merry Christmas.
My pleasure.
And Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and all of our
Followers
audience.
and watchers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see you after Christmas. Next week we are on again before the New Year. And we'll discuss New Year resolutions next week. 3 days of New Year resolutions. We're going to talk about that. Thank you and Merry Christmas.